that if you call in, you'll be asked to identify yourself to be admitted into the meeting. And the public will be muted while the board is talking. For every agenda item that requires a board vote, the public will be unmuted, given an opportunity to comment and ask questions. The meeting will be live streamed. There's about a 20-second delay between YouTube and the actual meeting, so be aware of that as you're watching it. If you'd like to email, if you're watching on the live stream, like to email a question for the board to hear and respond to, please send an email to info@eastgoshen.org. Again, info@eastgoshen.org. And have fun.
Okay, John, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Welcome everybody to the June 16th meeting of the Board of Supervisors. I will attempt to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I suggest that everybody tries to go along together so we don't sound like a misstep drumming. 1, 2, 3. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. David, how about a moment of silence?
Yeah, let's observe a moment of silence for those who go in harm's way to protect us every day, our police force, our emergency services, those who serve in the military, and our healthcare workers. Thank you.
Okay, very, very well. The chairman's report tonight is, I think I said this before, on tomorrow night, the 17th, at 7 o'clock, the Planning Commission will be meeting. It's a result of a postponement on that very windy day the other week or so ago. So if anybody wants to attend that one way or the other, or on a live screen, that'll be tomorrow night. And I skipped at one area. We are being live streamed tonight on YouTube, so if anybody's worried about that, well, too bad. The other announcement I need to make is Andy Tyler is resigning from the Conservancy Board. Does anybody happen to know why?
Oh, yeah.
Other commitments. Michelle, go ahead.
That's really what it was. Just a lot of work commitments. He's been with the board for about 5 years. There was, Walt checked in with him and there was no issue with the board itself, and he enjoys participating. He'll continue to participate.
Okay, great. Very good. Is Carmen here tonight? Is Carmen Batavia
No,
here?
he's not. He's not on the line.
Oh, he's not on the line?
He is not on the line.
He was going to do the emergency services. So, Ricky, I guess you get a chance to do it. And then we'll do Brenda. We'll do Brenda afterwards.
Okay, emergency services. Goshen had 18 fire responses, 5 fire police responses, 151 EMS responses during the month of May. Malvern had 18 EMS calls, and Good Fellowship, excuse me, hang this little picture. Good, I misplaced. I don't have the number on Good Fellowship, but it did not appear to be out of the ordinary. Sorry about that.
The fire marshal report was going to be.
The fire marshal had 1 burning complaint.
Yeah, and he's also going to tell you about, the fire trucks, like you see them on television going to different places, on birthday parties. We do the same thing. I think Carmen is one of the drivers of the truck, by the way. With that said, Chief Brenda, it's all yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I'm not going to reiterate everything that was in the newsletter that appeared in East Goshen's electronic newsletter recently. I'm just going to hit the highlights. I know that a lot of people have concerns about what's going on with police departments across the country. I'm hoping that I can put to rest some of those concerns by reiterating that we are an accredited police department, which means we operated to the best practices standard in Pennsylvania. And also, for anybody who's ever interacted with us, you know that we're firmly committed to community-based policing. But that being said, we recognize that there's always opportunities to do better. And as soon as we can get to the point where we can conduct public meetings, we'd like to hold two separate types of meetings. The first one's going to be like a large meeting where we talk about topics like de-escalation, use of force, etc. And then we're going to have smaller meetings similar to Coffee with a Cop, where residents will have the opportunity to sit one-on-one with a representative of the police department and talk about your specific concerns. But in the meantime, we're trying to communicate with residents the best that we can with our inability to have face-to-face meetings.
Chief,
Are there any questions?
this is Marty. I'm sorry if I thought you were finished. Do you have any reason at all to change any of the regulations that you have in your training program, like they are in the real world?
No, that's one of the reasons we wanted to be accredited, and that's why we appreciated the support of the townships when we became accredited. Everything like use of force, bias-based policing, hiring, discrimination, harassment training, all of that, we already have had in place since before 2016. So a lot of the recommendations that you're seeing coming out on various levels, we already have those in place. But like I said, we serve the residents. If they have concerns, if they have questions, we'll be happy to answer those. But at this point, I do not see anything in our policy procedures that needs to be changed. But the residents have the final say in that.
Okay, Chief, I don't recall. I remember saying to myself that there was a great article that someone wrote, you or whoever it was, that for the newsletter. I'm suggesting, because this issue is a pretty big issue, you might want to, in your own words, let the residents know exactly what you've just told us and what you do on behalf of the residents and what you have accomplished and what you plan to accomplish, and you don't think anything needs to be changed from what we've been doing and so forth and so on, whatever you want to say. But I think it's really important, the next e-letter we send out, that you put a message out there as to exactly what you want to say to arrest the fears of our residents. I don't
Marty,
know if anybody else has any ideas or not.
Marty, I did that. There was a 2-page letter that appeared from me to the residents in East Goshen's electronic newsletter.
Oh, is that what appeared the last time? Is that what appeared the last time? Because I knew it was very good. I just couldn't remember what it was.
Well,
Chief,
thank you. I'm glad you like it.
Chief, it's Michelle. I have a quick question for you. It sounds to me as if the letter that was sent by at least those 2 residents so far, is it possible that was kind of maybe a church-based initiative? And if so, do you think that you might have the opportunity to potentially be part of a Zoom service where you can actually reach out to their community?
That's a really good question, Michelle. Right now, the district attorney is trying to put together exactly that, where we bring all of the people together, whether it's district attorneys, sheriffs, and police departments. And we are going to do different groups, like, for example, the religious leaders in the community, business leaders in the community. We're going to hit a lot of different groups, but wherever the holes are in that program, I'm planning on filling it in specifically for our residents. And we do want to hit all the individual groups.
Great.
Anything
your
else,
letter
Chief?
was terrific.
Anything else? Anybody have anything else for the Chief?
Yeah, I'd like to ask the chief, in reference to these, the duplicative emails we received that Michelle was referring to and that you've responded to, Chief. And I don't want to get into an extended conversation, but the email contained 8 bullets of things that were of particular concern. And the only question I want to ask you right off the bat is, there are 8 particular items there that have to do with force and particular techniques and methods. Is there anything within the WEGO department that is contradictory to these indicated concerns or requests for consideration? Is there anything contradictory that stands out in your mind of something that would need incising and particular review amongst those 8 items listed?
Yes, there are a number of items, and I don't think a public venue is the best place to do it.
No,
Some of those,
I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I just since folks may be listening, that if you felt, you stated in your response to the residents, the positive environment that our WeGo officers and the department is operating and has had an excellent track record, an excellent response record, and excellent, as far as I know, restraint, protocol, and discipline. But I just thought I would ask as a general question, if of those 8, is there anything that is going to be a particular concern? And you don't even have to get into the specifics, but say we're going to examine several of them in particular, or I think the department, we are in pretty good sync with these concerns that have already been raised in these emails.
there are a number of requests in that email that contradict current case law on operations, and I would say that they violate best practices, but we're willing to discuss it with the residents. I'm confident that our policies at this point are in compliance with best practices. And it's like I said, some things are very difficult to do in a meeting like this.
Of course.
But like, for example, I'll give you an example. Officers shall always be required to give a verbal warning before using deadly force. Although our policy tells officers that when it is practical, they shall do that, there is a recognition that there's times where you cannot do that, and to require officers to do that would actually endanger public safety.
Okay. All right. I just thought I would mention it, and I recognize that this isn't the best forum to discuss, have a detailed conversation, but we've entrusted the department and the operation in your good hands, and we know you're going to further vet this and reaching out to the community. I think that's terrific. So thanks, Chief.
You're welcome.
Hey, Chief, Mike brings up a good point, and I don't recall what you did in the township newsletter, but where you have a comment that you want to make, like the one you just made, are you, on the ones that we have received, the letters that we've received, are you going to share those thoughts back to those people so that they have a clear understanding as to what we can and can't do in some cases and what we do in other cases? I mean, because I think if they take the trouble, even though it's a standard letter, if they take the trouble of writing, you got to almost have to tell them what the situation is.
Well, Marty, I don't know how to say this, but between emails, phone calls, and Crime Watch submissions, we have had over 75 similar letters or concerns expressed to us. And because most of these individuals don't have a background in use of force, I think I would come across as being like condescending. I think we almost have to, for those people who really do want to have a discussion about proper use of force, you almost have to have a face-to-face meeting to just write a response on why some of the things that people are requesting just can't be done or shouldn't be done. I just don't think it would come across well.
I'm not telling you what to do. I think if you should do it the way you think is best. I was just asking a question. I can't disagree with you or agree with you because I just don't know. I'm sure that you got more questions from people than we have received in emails. In fact, we've only received 2 that I'm aware of. So I would say that what you have done and plan to do with the large group that you talked about seems to me to be pretty sufficient as long as you're one of the ones that are commenting and you can answer any question that a East Goshen resident would have. It's fine by me.
Yeah, one of the things that we found is that I'm kind of sad that for the last 3 years, Citizens Police Academy has been canceled due to a lack of interest.
Yep.
The questions that a person would ask about this is exactly what we would teach in the Citizens Police Academy. And I'm sincerely hoping that residents who really want to get into depth and ask a lot of questions will sign up for the Citizens Police Academy this year, because this is the topics that we discussed.
Yeah, Chief, I think it's going to be interesting to see what the response is this year to the academy. And if it's the same as last year, I think I will be substantially disappointed that individuals who are particularly being vocal and investing in this particular time don't take the opportunity to participate in it. So I'll be curious to watch that. You also mentioned that you were going to be reaching out to certain different groups. Michelle mentioned church-based. I am if you will, a member of the Diversity in Action Coalition or committee that is really out of Westchester, but it's got a broader following, and it is a multi-religious, faith-based group. And I think that if that's and I can give you a link to that group, I think that would be one good one to reach out to, because as I say, they cover a broad geography centered in Westchester, but extending well into our township. So if you're not familiar with Diversity in Action Committee Coalition, I'll be happy to send that link to you.
Could you please send that link to me? I've heard the name, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I have the contact information for that group. That is exactly who we're looking for when we start to do these outreach meetings.
I will send that to you.
Thank you.
Anybody else have anything for the chief? Thank you
Can I
very
ask-
much, Chief. I
could I-
appreciate your coming down.
Can I ask another quick
Thank you.
question?
Oh, sure.
Chief, you said that there are about 75 other contacts that you had that were similar to the ones that we'd received today. Would you be directly reaching out to those folks, offering, if they're residents, offering that they should join the police academy? Citizens Academy, rather?
Actually, that was one of the things that I have been doing, particularly when it's a telephone call.
Great.
I've been really, really pushing the program because, like I said, a lot of these questions are addressed in the academy, and that's a perfect opportunity.
When's your next academy
Thank you.
program?
I'm sorry, what's that?
When is the next academy program?
We usually start it right after Labor Day. So I'm hoping that by then, some of the restrictions that we're under, we won't be under. So we can actually hold the program the way that we normally do. It's a lot of hands-on.
Will we have a newsletter coming out before that? Rick?
No, the next newsletter will come out in mid-September. Typically, the chief needs a couple weeks before the beginning of the academy, if I understand correctly, to make sure she has the resources she needs. So there's no way to have a newsletter before.
Okay.
We can certainly put a note about it on the website.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, we'll on Nextdoor, on Facebook, on Constant Contact, absolutely.
Chief, before you go, relative to the academy, let me ask you a question. As you indicated, and as I know, it is a very detailed program. It's, I think it is 8 sessions.
It's 12 or 13,
Well,
depending on how we can.
Sometimes the extent of that can be daunting for some residents. I'm wondering if there's some way not to dilute the program, but to perhaps spotlight maybe several sessions amongst the entire offering of sessions where those who may not have signed up, there may be an open sign up for the particular session to invite people who may not subscribe to the entire academy to be able to participate and at least listen to 1 or 2 sessions that may be particularly poignant relative to the current circumstances. Just a thought.
You know, that's a very good idea, and we had discussed that before. We'd have to partner with a site that had better seating, but that's definitely doable. And we had discussed that in the past. I'm glad that you think that's a good idea because we had also considered that.
it might grab a few more people, Chief, without having them feeling like they are pressured to commit to essentially a semester's worth of education, which is great, but a lot of people just cannot commit to that, and I think they hesitate to sign up. So it's worth a thought. I think so. I appreciate you thinking about it.
I think we will. I think that you have a very good suggestion, and moving forward, we're definitely going to try to do that.
No.
Chief, Ricky or John knows better than I, but I believe whether we stay yellow or go to green, that you still have that separation of the seating, the 6-foot separation, which makes it a tad difficult when you're not sure how many people you're going to have, because obviously you have to do the separation, but you're never sure how many people you're going to have.
Exactly. That's the
Well, I
challenge.
guess you know the most you're going to have, but you wouldn't know the least. So if it worked, if you got lucky and it turned over to be more than what the table permits, you would have a little bit of a problem.
And you know
So-
what? Whether it's a different venue, a little creative, September these years is kind of like late August, and it's very pleasant. You could have a session at the East Goshen Township Building and at the parking lot. In the parking lot, set up a number of chairs spaced out appropriately, gather a larger group there, not exceeding the green limits and protocols. But you get a good weather day. You could have one of those special sessions to invite a larger group to attend, and you're live and you're out in the air. Could be a nice opportunity.
One of the things we also have is we have in the back of the building, we have an overhang that would allow us to set up regardless of the weather and put a lot of tables up there. So we're also considering that too.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you're creative. You'll think about it. I know you recognize this could be an important opportunity this year at this time.
Exactly. I think this is an excellent opportunity for the citizens to really know what we do.
Chief, did you ever think about splitting the number of meetings between the fall and the spring? And you think it would be worthwhile to try that?
Trying to get all the officers and all the residents to get their schedules to line up has been very tricky. We found that we could not. We tried to do a spring session, and it wasn't good. We tried to do a summer session, or we considered it, and it was disastrous. And then we looked for the fall. That seems to be the only time that people have an interest. I don't know if it's because they're done with vacation or whatever, but we're finding it very difficult to find a time period that works for everybody, especially like scheduling purposes.
Yeah.
Spring is difficult. We do a lot.
We'll do the
spring
best we can. We'll do the best we can. Let's keep it moving here.
Yeah. Keep it.
Yeah.
Chief. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
I think it's time to say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Farewell.
There's no financial report, and the next item would be.
Excuse me, Marty, we have a caller that just joined the meeting.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Caller that just joined the meeting with phone number ending in 279. Can you please state your name?
Carmen Arbatavio.
Hey.
Carmen.
Oh, Carmen, you're just a little bit late. We just finished doing it.
Well, I'm sorry. When you have grandkids.
Well, go ahead and
sometimes
tell
you
everybody about the parades.
Well, number one, I'm glad everybody is safe, and I hope everybody is doing well. Fire company has been very active in doing what we call drive-by birthdays. Since everybody's been locked up with COVID, there's birthdays, graduations. We did a bar mitzvah the other day where people will either get behind us and make a parade. We'll take engines, we take the ladder, we take whatever we can. 2 people only on the truck to make it socially safe. Do drive-bys for the kids, for the adults, for the graduation parties. We did one at the church the other day. So we're trying to help out the best we can. The only other report, and I'm sorry I missed it, was a burning complaint that was called in by a resident on Paoli Pike as a building fire. Ended up being some wood. So that's it. How's everybody doing?
Good, Carmen.
Great.
How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I just went to the doctors today and I told them that I just got back from China, Vietnam, and Korea. They almost kicked me out of the office.
And now you're headed to Arizona.
Yeah. Yeah. So I apologize.
Hey, Carmen,
I
Carmen,
apologize for being late.
Carmen, is there any cost associated with somebody wanting to do the drive-by with a parade?
Donation.
For the residents, no.
They can
No,
make a donation.
Well, we will accept donations, and most of them do send donations,
Right.
and most of them are actually members where they send in a yearly contribution. We actually started doing it just in the beginning, just for firemen's kids, you know, because we're on the front lines and so forth. But then we started getting these requests, and our chief said, you know, if you guys and gals, I say guys, but I'm sorry, it's men and women. If no one minds, we'll run the trucks, we'll make everybody happy, and we'll, you know, try to take some of the sting out of, you know, everybody being locked up the way they are. So
That's
what we do.
fantastic.
There was one, you had one nice visit in our neighborhood, that's Goshen Downs, the other last week, I think it was, and it was right up the street from us. I know they were very excited. They were actually twins, and it got me outside jumping and the dog barking, so it was a total success as far as I was concerned.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, that's great.
White men can't jump, Mike.
Yeah. As far as the fire company being safe, I have to tell you that we have probably transported 250 to 300 COVID positive people. The majority from nursing homes, obviously. And to the best of my knowledge, one firefighter got exposed, and that was actually on a camping trip before he got back. So he put himself into quarantine. We are spending an absolute fortune like anybody else, cleaning the trucks. When we finish an ambulance call, the ambulance is all but sterilized from top to bottom. If I drive one of the engines, even for a birthday drive-by, when I'm done, I have to sterilize the driving area. Whoever rides with me has to sterilize the officer's area. So the fire company has been about as proactive. I consider it just like East Goshen. East Goshen has always been so proactive in doing things. Well, Goshen Fire Company with Station 54 and 56 have been as proactive as East Goshen Township, listening to the scientists. So hats off to all the men and women that do what they do, you know.
Carmen?
Carmen, let me ask you a question. Hey, John, have you mentioned to the fire company the same thing that David mentioned to us with respect to the money that the county received with respect to doing something to see if they can get reimbursement for some of the expenses?
They're not a government entity. I mean, sure, I can forward it to Grant. I forwarded it to.
I mean, they're part of the township, so I would think that they'd be eligible.
They're not part of the township, but I can forward it to Grant and ask him if he's if it's interested.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Absolutely.
Is David on?
Yes.
David, could you exercise your special relationship with Marion and see if the fire people could get covered?
Well, let me back up. So the county is accepting all of the reimbursements for COVID related expenses to the extent to which that email that Bobby Cagle sent out. I remember Bobby Cagle is the former head of Department of Emergency Services in the county. So I'm sure that email was sent around to to fire chiefs as well as it was to municipalities. I mean, I can forward it to Grant just as a, you know, but that was blanketed to everybody.
I understand. Forward department.
If I could jump in real quick, sorry about that, but we have Grant, our executive director, along with the chiefs and the board of directors, have been actively soliciting a lot of this money that we're talking about. Now, because there's no really hands-on and we don't have drills or anything, I don't know how much they've gotten, but obviously any help that we can find, we're trying to do. John, if you would forward it.
Yeah, I mean, so just a little bit of background. The fire company got a PPP grant, Payroll Protection Program grant, and they also got a $5,000 grant from Willistown Township for PPE. I believe it was 5,000, may have been more than that. But
It was 5,000.
yeah. So they're actually in a better, I'm not going to comment on the fire company's finances beyond that.
I think if you just give them just make them aware of it, it's up to them what they want to do.
That's right.
And Carmen, I appreciate your coming over. Is there anything else that anybody has for Carmen or Carmen has for us?
Nope.
Okay, let's move on.
Thank you,
The
Carmen.
Thank you,
next
Carmen.
item.
Thanks, Carmen.
Thanks,
Have a
Carmen.
great night. I love everybody and stay safe.
All right.
Okay,
You
take
too.
care.
Back at you.
The financial report, we have none tonight. The next item is the approval of the minutes and the treasurer's report. I have read fairly carefully the minutes, and John's doing a great job, and I don't see any reason I didn't find any problems. Maybe somebody else did. If no one did, David, how about making a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to move that we approve the minutes of the Board of Supervisors meeting on June 9th and also the minutes of the June 10th long-range budget planning session.
I would second that.
Okay, anybody have any comments or questions from the board? How about the audience? Does anybody up there have any comments or questions?
No, I don't.
No, I don't think so.
comment.
Okay, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of the motion? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. 5-0, Don. The next item is the treasurer's report and the bills. Mike, did you have any chance to review them carefully?
I did. I took a look. I don't have any specific questions on this one. There's one, I'll call it syntax one I'll ask John about, but I'll defer to anybody else if they have specific questions. Michelle, you might have some questions on any of the proposed.
I would ask, Mike, if you have a question about a bill?
No, it's actually, it's going to annoy you, but weren't we going to change sinking fund to capital reserve fund?
You're right. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll remind Barb about that. Yep, thank you.
But just to categorize it, I think effectively we agreed that it'd be a worthwhile change on some of the headings.
You're correct. You're right. We're violating our own financial policies.
It's minor.
David, do you want to make a motion for that? And then if anybody has
well-
any questions, they can ask them.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to move that we graciously accept the receipts and approve the expenditures as presented in the expense register and as summarized in the treasurer's report.
I'd
I'll second that.
Either one.
Does anybody have any questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, there was batch 1 of 3, page 5. And it is the WEGO building capital contribution of $15,750. And I just wanted to point out, John and I discussed this. This is something that's paid annually, is my understanding. Is that correct, John?
That's correct. Yeah.
And do we have an idea when the building is going to be paid off?
The building will be paid off in 2023. The notes were refinanced. Technically, the bonds were in Westtown's name.
Right.
They were refinanced in 2012, I believe.
Okay. And then the only other thing I wanted to point out was batch 1 of 3, page 8. And I have a line item. It's the 62,338 West Goshen Sewer something or other litigation.
TMDL, yeah.
Yeah, can you explain what that is to us, John, please?
Yeah, so broadly, and this predates me a little bit, but way back when, let's say a decade ago, the West Goshen entered or was ordered by DEP to have phosphorus levels below the theoretical technical limit of what wastewater treatment plants were able to get their phosphorus levels to. So West Goshen appealed that phosphorus limit, and they were able to negotiate a higher level. But because that broadly falls under the umbrella of capital improvements, we are responsible under our agreement, or municipal authority under its agreement with West Goshen Sewer Authority is responsible for 1/6 of those litigation expenses. So our, it was a $6,000 bill, of which our share was 1/6, so it came to $8,000 or something.
Okay, so we don't have to pay any more into that, correct? I mean the
Those were
litigation.
the
fees.
last, I believe that's correct. I mean, with the DEP and the EPA, you'd never know what they're going to do as far as
No,
regulatory requirements and.
I just meant the
Commission.
litigation component, that's
Yeah,
all.
I believe the answer is no, but I couldn't tell you that definitively of whether there's additional excess, I's to dot and T's to cross.
Okay, all right.
Michelle, just so you know, TMDL is total maximum daily load, and it is.
Right.
I know whether you knew that or not.
Yeah, thank you. And then I think that for clarification, I know that the trail is under construction right now, and that's considered under a grant, and it's paid for. Are we paying our township employees to work on that trail? Or are they being paid out of a grant?
Okay, well, so to clarify that, you mean the public works folks that are working on segments F and G? So so because that's all being done in-house, what we can do is use that, the labor costs and equipment, our in-house equipment stuff, as matching funds towards the 2 grants that we received for those 2 segments. The funding of segments F and G works a little bit differently than for the other segments. So we're doing most of that in-house. As I said, that those labor costs are matching funds. And also the engineering counts.
No, wait a minute. Let's go back over that.
Sure.
If we're paying our employees who are working on the trail, what happened to the statement that the state grant is going to pay all of the construction costs?
That was for segments C through E, but segments F and G, because we were doing them in-house, we didn't have the full construction costs covered. That was never.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many nuances in how you explain these things. F and G is a little bit of a nuance. We'll get about 2/3 covered on F and G, but instead we're doing it all in-house. So it's just the cost of the macadam, the labor, there's some vehicle equipment rental, and obviously that island.
I believe the logic was, John, correct me if I'm wrong, please. I think that we decided that it was easier and cheaper to use our own people than it was to go outside. Because bear in mind that we're hooking up to the existing trail.
Yeah, it's a disjointed series of connections, so that to be able to get stage like an Alan Myers to go on a straight line and do the work. I think it was a pretty efficient way to do it. Fortunately, we've got the expertise in-house to do it. But that's when you look at it, the existing trail through the Applebrook Park provided about, John, maybe 80% of the trail connection. It was just a few little segment connections, right?
I'm not sure I can answer that question.
Is Mark Miller with us?
No. What was the question, Mark? Mike, again, 80%?
Well, I think that, those 2 segments we're relying on existing paving trail that goes through Applebrook Park. And
correct.
Having a couple other little segments, new segments connected. For instance, at 352 and Paoli Pike, there was the one section that goes from there down into Applebrook Park to connect up with the existing trail. And then we have one segment that goes across in front of the, the Commerce building there that we did. And
so that segment's F and G.
Yeah.
Small easement in front of Goshen Friends.
Yeah.
Everything else is in township property. So other than that, small easement, and we basically got the easement in exchange for doing some tree work 5 years ago on the Goshen monthly meeting property.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just a different banana than the other ones. We got.
That's what I was trying to say, but didn't say it well.
Yeah.
Hey, Ricky, on the, are the blockades that are up there now, near 352, are they to warn or prevent people from crossing, at the intersection there? Because the reason I asked, let me finish the question. The reason I asked the question, there was a father and a young boy trying to get across the street, coming from our park towards the Wawa, because they ended up in Wawa, because they had a hell of a time getting across there, and it looks like other people have tried. So I'm not sure we're accomplishing whatever the objective is there, if in fact that's what it is.
Well, the barriers are up because they got the blacktop done, and now they got to do a little bit of dirt work around that end. But we were there today and pushed the button, and the traffic light worked for us. So
I'm talking about people now. It just was a coincidence. I happened to be there, and this poor father and the young son didn't know when to go, and in fact, they ended up, well, they ended up taking a sprint across there with their bikes, and it was I think people saw them so that they, let them get done. I just looked over there and saw these things, and I thought that's what it might be for, but it looks like they're in such a shape that people have tried to get through there, meaning that probably people are using the trail or trying to use the trail or did use the trail. So I'm not saying we should do anything. I'm just making a point that it is a little bit of a problem.
Well, right now the trail, the blacktop is down for F&G, and the concrete is down for F&G. I said I got a little bit of dirt work to do at the intersection, but if the person pushed the button for the crosswalk, it would come up. So maybe they didn't push the button.
They definitely didn't do that.
Okay,
that's fine. I'm not trying to start a problem here. I just happened to mention it. I thought, God damn, I wonder if these poor guys are going to get across the street. And they did. They made it, but it was a struggle, to say the least.
John Herzog. John, do you have any other questions on this or need some more information from John or Rick on the trail? Since you had questions, I didn't know whether they were answered fully, John.
No, I'll probably take time and sit down with John. I'm not trying to make trouble either, as echoing Marty, but I thought all the construction that was to be done was covered by the grant, and apparently that's not the case. I think we made that statement in the newsletter, didn't we, or somewhere like that?
Well, the statement was made in the context of the C through E, which is a more challenging segment and much more expensive. You're right, John. I mean, why don't we just plan to sit down and
I don't want to make a big issue of it now. I just like to get a little more educated. That's all.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, everybody done that part. The next item.
We need to vote.
We need to vote on the treasurer's report, right?
Yep.
Okay, is there a motion on the treasurer's report? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Is anybody opposed? 5-0, John. Thank you. The next is a leftover that we have to take care of tonight. Is the consideration of the recommendation of the Boot Road geophysical survey. Either John or David needs to weigh in here, because last week we postponed it, waiting for Carolyn Committed to perhaps get some data for us. I guess I'll ask David, did that come, were we lucky enough to get it?
Yeah, let me tell you where we are. I spoke with Representative Committa on Friday, and it was an interesting conversation. She called PennDOT, and they said, yeah, we did talk about full copies of the survey. The one that we got, the summary that we got is 36 pages, so it's a little bit more than a summary. That's correct, Rick, right?
We got the original report and the one that they updated after Schnabel did, or a consultant did the additional work.
Yeah. So the interesting aspect of this is that Carolyn informed me that once we filed a right to know request, it becomes a legal issue, and she's actually not allowed to intervene on our behalf because she can't intervene on a legal issue. So, but filing a right to know, we kind of eliminated an avenue for Carolyn to get the reports.
Yeah.
The interesting thing was that she was advised by PennDOT that we should just go to Sunoco and request the reports, and she said she thought we would get them. I don't know if that's actually true or not, but that was her recommendation, that our next step would be to go directly to Sunoco and ask for full copies of the reports.
I guess it's worth a try, right?
Yep.
Hey, Ricky, I think I think that Joe McGinn might be okay with that if we ask him nicely.
We asked
That's
for,
an interesting point. The note we have here says that we got we made the request on February 6th, formal response June 1st, and we have 15 business days. By my math, today is the 15th day.
That was the PennDOT though. Right?
Oh, okay.
That was,
So then is it too late for,
is
is it too late for us to give it to the pipeline committee then? I guess it is.
Am I
Well,
unmuted?
Yeah.
Nothing,
well, then let me
go
ask
ahead.
Yes.
David, let me ask this question. Are you comfortable at this point in time with the recommendation of the staff to not to spend the resources to appeal this right to know at this point in time?
Yeah, I think we ought to, Representative Committee made, on advice from PennDOT, made a recommendation that we go to Sunoco and try to obtain. And then, of course, her second fallback was, look, you've got a 36-page report. It's not just a 3-page summary report. So you have enough for them to be reviewed. But if you want the full reports, the PennDOT folks thought that Sunoco would give them to us.
Is there a value in the full report relative to what we have, David, as far as the resources of the effort to get the full report relative to diminishing returns? The 35 pages, does it not tell us enough based upon what oversight we have on the matter? David?
Well, even if it's a pretty robust summary, it's still a summary. So I guess, I'd like to kind of see all the reports. So.
All right.
Can I make a couple?
It doesn't hurt. Excuse me, I didn't realize somebody. Go ahead. I'll just wait.
Okay, this is Christina. So I've spent a little bit of time digging through my computer because I was puzzled by the fact that I had submitted a right to know request at roughly the same time that the township had, and I kept thinking, I wonder why I didn't get a response, a letter like a denial letter like the township did on June 1st. So I thought, well, maybe mine went into spam or something like that. So I've been doing some forensic work on my computer, which has 1 million emails on here. And I've been searching all different kinds of terms, and I did find a request from them, a response from them. And what they did was they responded to me, and they partially approved my request, and they partially denied my request. And somehow I missed this response. What I asked for were all documents, notes, studies, reports, summaries, correspondence, both written and email, text messages, and any other materials related to the Boot Road study concerning subsurface investigation of conditions associated with Sunoco Energy Transfer's drilling activity. My request was partially granted and partially denied. The parts that were denied included communications with certain subcontractors as well as communications with PennDOT's general counsel, which I found to be very interesting.
No, that's legitimate. That would be protected.
Yeah. So then I dug through all of my stacks of my township documents, because a lot of times when my mail comes in, I stack it all up together and I put it in there. And I found my PennDOT response in there, which I just guessed didn't open at the time. And inside was a disk with 43 documents on it.
Wow.
Yes.
All right. So it sounds like.
I've been, I have some information, I don't have all of the information. I have some of the information, but I would like to move it to the pipeline task force and talk about it there.
Yeah, that's the appropriate thing to do.
Because
Yes.
I would like to do it there. And I think that I would just like to find some sort of mechanism to share the disk that I have with you guys. I don't know if you have any suggestions with that, or I don't know if anybody's even interested in seeing it. Who's
Well, yeah.
interested?
I am.
Who wants a copy?
You should take it to the pipeline task force first, and the person who should get it is the township engineer then, if I'm reading this correctly.
Well, a lot of it, so some of it is emails back and forth between people. And what I have I'm trying to make an kind of like a little catalog, because I can tell that the documents have been scrubbed. They've definitely been scrubbed. And they definitely point to the fact that it was Larry Greminger who wrote the summary. There's no doubt about that.
Well, the township engineer is supposed to review the geophysical survey. You have that information.
There are multiple documents that all have the same name that say Boot Road Geophysical Investigation. Boot Road Geophysical Results. There's probably 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't know, there's probably 10 that all have the same name. And then they all say redacted.
Of course they do.
They all say,
Christina, let me ask you, when did you get that? What is the date on that denial response?
So every document in this file has the exact same date, which is March 13th.
Okay.
Wow.
But I would just want to share with you one email that basically tells it all. And it's to the district engineer at PennDOT. Her name is Sarah McInnes. Sarah, attached is the draft summary we promised for use by PennDOT. Feel free to reach out, Larry Greminger, VP Energy Transfer. He wrote it. He wrote it.
Well, it sounds, I think whoever said that you should go to our committee, I think that's probably the proper thing to do. It sounds like that Christina may have a document we don't have that may be the one that we really need, or we don't need and we should just use the ones that we have. Or last but not least, I would think Ricky would be the right person to talk to Joe McGinn and see if the Sunoco route is going to bear any fruit. But I wouldn't go there first and stir up the troops. I try to ask things one at a time here. Make sure you get them in the proper order before you go to Sunoco, because we could have a problem. But Joe McGinn's he likes us guys, and he's been pretty good with us. But I don't want to overdo it with him either.
Right.
Yeah,
there's nothing that they're going to give up. They're going to give up because it's very clear from these messages. I mean, what we were looking for was to find out, and it was actually very interesting. You'll see in here when that meeting that I had with Carolyn Comita, when I went there, because we got that anonymous, unsigned summary. That day, there's a whole flurry of emails that were fired off that day about the unsigned anonymous summary that appeared on East Goshen's website, and those files are on this disk too. That kicked off. That
All right,
kicked up some dust.
Let's just refer this to the Pipeline Task Force pending their recommendation. That's how we proceed.
Yep. Yep.
All right, but if
Okay.
if we do not file an appeal, if you don't make a decision to file appeal tonight, then we lose the ability to appeal. And we have to start all over again if we want to go down that route again.
Yeah.
Well, as a neutral party, Rick, let me ask the people that know more about this than I know and say, would it be worth for us to appeal, or should we just not go that route? For those that are here that are involved in this, Christina, Ricky, David, whoever else, if I think that we have some talent right here to at least make a decision whether we ought to go or no go. I realize it would be better to run it through the committee, but we don't have that choice because we're going to lose all opportunities tonight. So the question is, should we or shouldn't we? And the people that have been involved in this should be the ones that have the capability of answering that question, I would think.
There's
The
nothing
point
that
I was
prevents
making
you
in,
from.
the point
there's
I made
nothing
in
that
my
prevents
memo
you from-
was that we could file the appeal, cost us a couple $1,000s. If we lost or won, or if we won, I would expect that Sunoco would file and would appeal a decision, in which case we go to the court where we have to spend real money.
But it
So
won't
if
cost
the
money.
board is prepared to spend the additional funding to do it all the way through, then do it. But if
There is no cost to file an appeal.
we need to have our attorney file the appeal, and we would need to have our attorney file the court if you go to the the court file, the court going up. So that's for the question for the board.
Rick, do we
We
actually,
also asked for a copy of the internal PennDOT reviews. Now, we haven't got those, but again, if
Rick,
the board wants to spend them because wants to commit to the funding to going forward, then we'll file the appeal.
Rick, are we required to use our solicitor for this? Or is
No.
it something?
I'm not qualified to write a legal brief supporting the court cases on why we should be entitled to information. I don't have that information. I get it probably 6 months by poking around, but it's not productive use of.
Your time.
You need to have the attorney do it.
It's not the responsibility of the manager to do that.
That's fine.
That's why we have an appointed solicitor. We're either going
Okay.
to spend the dollars to do it and do it properly or not. I'm inclined to not and listen to the recommendation.
Well,
of the manager.
why don't we ask the question, Ricky, how much,
Yeah.
if we went the legal route, how much is it going to cost us minimally?
The first round is probably a couple $1,000s, but if somebody takes exception or they and I think PennDOT would fight it if they lost, then you're in conflict or you're in court and you're spending money on briefs and you're several $1,000s.
Right.
That's
Okay,
true.
boys and
Well,
girls, what do you
Okay,
think?
David, I haven't heard David. David, how do you feel about
Yeah.
this?
David, you happen to be a big player in this here, so you're going to have to
You're
come
on the
up and
spot, man.
say something.
Yeah. I guess my bottom line would be it's without having seen what Christina has, I don't, she said it was heavily redacted. If we file ours, hopefully it wouldn't come heavily redacted. Hopefully they didn't, maybe when they said redacted, it was just the client privilege stuff, but who knows? I'd be inclined to spend a couple $1,000s to have Kristen write an appeal, but we have to do it when, Rick? By?
We have 15 business days, so if we tell her tomorrow, she would have to file, I think it's beginning next week.
Can we file a notice that we're appealing and then follow it up with you have to file
We need to file the appeal.
But
Yeah.
there's also nothing saying that we have to go any further once we file the appeal. And
That's
get the
right.
result.
Yeah.
So
You don't.
I'd be inclined to follow. I'm inclined to follow David's advice and file an appeal.
Yeah, that's what I would like to do.
I'm all for that then. Could we work it so that Christina can work with Kristen?
Well, first we ought to ask Christina if she feels that's a worthwhile route to go. She's sort of involved here too.
Good question.
Well, here's what, if the township's uncomfortable with spending that money, that's fine. I have this thing, I'm sure that my time has run out anyways, but that's not going to prevent me from sending in another response and asking for more information. And I can even just send in a whole brand new right to know request for different information. I don't see what the harm is in that, or submitting a request through the Office of Open Records and not even going straight to PennDOT. I see multiple pathways here. You know, even if this time time frame has run out on my initial request, I'm going to start a whole new one. I'm going to start the clock again, and I'm going to ask for slightly different things. So
my view is I'd like to see Kristen's legal theories, because she had some specific comments regarding the reason for the denial. That was, wasn't as a result of an accident. As we understand accidents for right to know from PennDOT, and I'd like to see her kind of legal theory on both counts for the denial. So I'd be willing to, and Michelle's correct. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole with tons of money, frankly, but I think it's worth spending a couple thousand, A, to get the legal theory out there, and B, to see what kind of response we get.
the other thing that I'll just throw out there, if anyone's going to have a conversation with Kristen about it, is that I would definitely use the leverage that East Goshen and PennDOT, or that PennDOT is a named insured on East Goshen's general liability insurance. And so there should be a more transparent relationship here and a more open sharing of information, especially where, there could be, general interests here, and they shouldn't be denying requests for basic information.
Right.
I think you should absolutely use that on them.
So tagging on to what David was saying, is there a chance that perhaps you would be willing to share? I mean, I don't know if it's appropriate, but would it be possible for David? Do you think that Christina maybe could share the information that she has with Kristen before Kristen goes ahead and makes that? Or no?
Christina's information doesn't make any difference to Kristen.
Okay.
Because
Okay,
Kristen's
that's
going to
fine.
file that we're
Okay.
taking exception to PennDOT's claim that it's a traffic study.
Yeah,
I
she's
see.
Christina's
taking a
information
different-
may be of value to Pannoni if and when they ever do the review.
Okay,
Right.
thank you.
Yeah.
Right. I think
That-
David's got a point that let Kristen fire some
Yeah.
shots, because she's dealing with a different element than everybody else is dealing with,
Yeah.
and it may prevail without. Now, whoever said this, Ricky, I think, knowing what PennDOT does, they probably would appeal, because they don't want us to win. Now, Christina starts saying, wait a minute, we should be working together as opposed to being opposites. Well, I don't know if that's true or not, because I don't know enough about it. But the point being, Kristen will at least find out for us if there is any route that was be taken other than just asking for the information. If she proves a point, we're going to be in pretty good shape. But we may run the risk of winning but losing because of the money, and that's what PennDOT does. They got bigger pockets and deeper pockets than we do.
So do we need a motion then?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
well, we're still talking about it. If everybody's ready to make a motion, I think we should make it. But if everybody's comfortable with doing what seems to be the answer here is let Kristen do her thing, then somebody needs to make a motion.
I think David and Michelle are right. At least go to the first step, the $2,000 step or whatever it is.
We have too much invested in this.
I'm with that too. It sounds like reasonable thing.
I would move that we authorize Christian to look into it and file an appeal.
I'll second.
There you go.
Okay, Ricky, is that the right way to work?
Yep. That's all you need. You need public comment.
Very
Then
good.
vote.
Well, all those
Is
in
there-
favor of the motion?
Well, do we
Aye.
have any public
Aye.
comment
Aye.
first?
Is
We have to
anybody
have public-
opposed?
I'm
We have
opposed.
public comment first. Or are we done with that?
Who said opposed?
I did.
No, Marty, wait. Before you take a vote, you have to ask for public comment. And then you can have the vote.
Could I
Well,
say
you're right,
something
but I
in
figured,
public?
I'm sorry, but I thought Christina Sawi unloaded everything she
Carmen's-
wanted to unload. You are correct, John.
Carmen's
First
trying
of
to
all,
get
is there
Carmen
any
trying to
more
say
comments
something.
from the board?
Go ahead, Carmen. Oh, from the
in-
board, sorry.
I would suggest that David and Christina are right, that we should take this first step. We don't have to go further, but in my opinion, it keeps the door open right now instead of slamming it shut.
Exactly.
And
Yep.
it's relatively inexpensive for this first step.
Okay, is there anybody on the board that wants to make a comment?
No.
Anybody else in the audience?
It's Christina. I don't have anything that has to do with the vote, but I'm just wondering, is there any way that I can get assistance in getting copies of my data to the pipeline task force or any interested supervisors?
That's a separate
John, do we
question
have
for
capability of copying discs?
It's like a floppy disk.
It's a CD. It's a
CD.
CD.
Do those even exist anymore?
If you have a CD,
It's a CD-ROM.
Oh, 1990.
so yeah, Christina, probably one way or another, we can figure out a way to
Yes.
put anything.
Okay. All right, then do we need a vote then?
Yeah, we need a vote. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed?
Aye.
Who said that, John?
Mike Lynn.
Michael.
Right.
Mike or
Mike.
John? Oh,
Mike.
Mike. Okay, 4-1 with Mike abstaining.
I didn't have.
No,
Okay.
Mike opposed.
Against it.
Mike's opposed.
Or opposed, I mean, I'm sorry, used the wrong word. I'm so used to Mike abstaining, I used the wrong word. Okay, we're done that, right? Whoa, that wasn't too bad.
I hope so.
Hey, now that we're done that, we have our friend and foe that's going to tell us all about the Locksbox, and that's going to be a beautiful thing, isn't it, Chris?
It's very
Chris
easy.
is,
It's very
Chris is going to tell us, and then John's going to correct her.
right. But Chris is going to be the most efficient one here tonight because this should only take about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So first, I want to just thank everyone for the opportunity to come before you tonight and present this topic. Just to give you a little bit of background, we've had the lockbox since about 2009, 2010. I understand there was a taxpayer advisory group then, and the lockbox was implemented to create efficiencies. Over my time in the last couple of years with the township, many residents have expressed some concerns about sending their payments to Baltimore. A couple weeks ago, the bank, M&T Bank, who processes our lockbox payments, had presented to us some concerns about our remittance stubs that were jamming their scanners. So the bank had asked us to consider changing the size of that remittance stub to about 8¼ inches, the size of like a legal check. And in discussing it with John, a couple of reasons why we really can't accommodate that request is because we actually order our invoice card stock once a year, and we have about $800 worth of card stock, invoice stock remaining. And then if we were to consider increasing the size of the remittance stub, we would lose the seal for around the edge of the invoices. So that's not something that we really is feasible to do. At the current time, as I presented to you in some documents, our lockbox processes about 33% of our payments. And as opposed to Paymentus, which is our new online portal, we are receiving about 17% of payments through the portal. I myself in the office, along with another staff member, processes about 50% of the utility payments. So what we envision is the payments that are now sent to the lockbox would filter either through Paymentus or through the office. In order to do that, I am recommending that we purchase the high-speed scanner, check scanner for the office. And if you noticed in my memo, the current scanner scans 50 checks in 10 minutes. And the new scanner would scan 50 checks in 1 minute.
Yeah.
So we would be looking to phase out the lockbox by the end of 2020, sooner rather than later. And in conjunction with that, we would also target specifically residents who process their payment through their online bank bill payer system and encourage them to use our online portal with Paymentus. We did also receive just a couple days ago a comment from M&T Bank that they can put together a forwarding order for the invoices that get sent to the lockbox that would be forwarded to the office. So,
Great.
that would be helpful. And I think that's about it. John, do you have anything to add to what I said?
No, Chris, I think you did a great job of explaining it.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
And Chris and John, the staff has the ability to handle more incoming processing than through the township staff?
So as I said in my memo, Mike, that's a good point, and it's something that I did consider. With the purchase of the high-speed check scanner, that would save me 9 minutes.
Gotcha.
Every 50 checks.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So between that and, you know, maybe having Amanda at the front desk help sorting or maybe even scanning checks, I think I feel confident that this process will work. I'll make it work.
Great.
It looks great. Is there any downside at all?
I couldn't think of any. I think it would give the residents a comfort level that they can use our drop box at the front of the building. Some residents are aware of that. And I think between Paymentus processing payments overnight, the payments are applied to accounts overnight, as well as me processing payments every day. I think there's less room for error and more efficiency in posting the payment to
Great.
accounts.
How often, Chris, did you clear the lockbox? Was that done weekly?
No, daily.
Oh, you clear the lockbox daily. Good for you. Well,
Daily.
do you know of any residents who are absolutely married to the lockbox and say this is the best thing since? Yeah. Okay.
I can't say that I've heard any.
Yeah, I didn't think so, but well, I think it sounds like a real smart thing, and there's the staff doing smart things with our service and operation.
Yeah.
And the
Absolutely.
cost savings in the first year would be $7,700.
Yeah.
Great.
Good. Make the motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd move that we purchase a new check scanner and transition the lockbox offering to an alternative utility bill payment processing, as mentioned in the email that we received, eliminating the M&T Bank lockbox service by December 31st, 2020.
Second.
Michelle,
You know, we are going on Jeopardy, the two of us. And
can I ask John a question? Hey, John, whatever we're planning to do here, if we go and mess around with the AMS system to get something new, is this fit into that, or do we lose something in the transition? Where we all write both ways?
I mean, there's a host of kind of troubleshooting things we'd have to like work out with any new financial system. I don't think this in and of itself, I couldn't imagine that this in and of itself would create a problem for any new financial system.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you agree with that?
That being, I don't have a problem, that being the case.
Chris, would you agree with what I
Is
said?
anybody else, is anybody in the audience, our guests have a comment?
I do, Carmen.
Go ahead.
John, is there any advantage to leasing because that normally covers service contracts? in repairs versus an outright purchase?
I think we're talking about $700,
Yeah.
Mark, something that's going to last us 10 years. I think, I mean, I don't even know if they would lease it to us. That's just too small a dollar figure.
I thought it was a lot more. I don't have the notes. I thought it was
I
a lot
would,
more money.
I want to note though, is that we're very like, we get, you know what, I'm just going to leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. I'm sorry, ignore.
I didn't realize it was that small of a figure. Forget
Yeah.
my question.
No, I think it's a good question to move forward with, on bigger expenditures. So thanks for bringing that up.
Right, and Corbin, just to address your question, the cost of the scanner that I was recommending is approximately $700.
Yeah, yeah.
Anybody else?
Anything else? Good.
Everybody done, exhaust themselves?
Yeah, call the vote.
Yes.
All those in favor of the motion, aye.
I,
Anybody opposed?
I'm not, Marty.
Pardon me?
I'm not. Wise guy.
Not opposed and I'm not abstaining, just so you know that.
I don't know the word for that.
Thank you.
5-0, John.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you very much, Mike.
Chris,
I
thank
appreciate that. Your humor is much appreciated. Now comes the, is there any other matter from the board or from the staff?
I have a matter. So when we voted for the for the bills to be paid, there was I was muted, so I am reflected as a yes, but there was also no opportunity for the public to ask any questions. So I'd really appreciate it if we could allow the public, if they have any questions, to voice them now.
Sure, on any open bills, sure, absolutely, let's hear it.
So are there any other questions, is what I'm saying?
I was just wondering what's going to happen to that old scanner. Do you sell it? Do you throw it away? What happens to it? Do you trade it in?
Well, that's a good question, and if I can address that. We do have multiple people in the office that have the opportunity to deposit checks with the scanner. So what I would envision is to pass it along to another staff member so that in the event when the bills are due, specifically August 31st, when we get a load of payments in, we can have multiple people, not just myself, depositing checks and processing them. So although we would have the high-speed scanner, we would have, I would think, unless John, you have another idea, I would think that we would use that as a backup.
And you just use it till it wears out and then you just exit it.
Yeah.
Smart, smart.
Well, that doesn't actually, my question is, did the public have any question regarding our treasury, excuse me, our bills? Because that question was never allowed open to the public.
Right.
So,
What? I thought it was, but that's
No.
all right.
That's right. Michelle was on mute. It didn't get answered. So
I was on muted.
anybody have any questions
Oh,
about the current disbursement?
you're right about that.
All right, come on. Any open questions on the disbursements? Anybody out there?
I guess not. That's fine. I just wanted to make sure people had their opportunity.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I don't have
Is
anything.
there any other matter?
Okay, so here we are.
Has anybody got any other matter?
No.
Do our guests have any comments they want to make about anything?
No,
Stay
thank
safe,
you.
everybody. Stay safe, everybody, and I love you all.
You too.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Carmen.
Thank you, Carmen.
With that, is there any, I forget, Ricky, is there any correspondence or reports of interest? I forget.
No.
No,
No.
there isn't.
No.
Does anybody have anything else at all? If not, I'll accept the message of a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Seconded.
Second,
We all seconded it.
okey dokey.
I oppose.
I'm an I.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm done because you guys are getting it's getting too hard to handle.
I do want to, seriously, I do want to ask one question though, operationally. John, and Marty, just hang in there, mute yourself for a second. I'd really like to see Marty, we've got Bert. Why can't we get Marty hooked up so he has video so we can have a more fluent exchange and we can see?
There's absolutely no reason we could get him an iPad, and this would be very easy. We have extra iPads around.
If this is going to go on for more months, Marty, I think you should get the video option and let Bert come in there and, you know, go out to lunch or something and let him fix it up for you.
Yeah, John, I know talking to Bert, you're going to have to replace my computer anyhow because it's back about 2 systems from where we're supposed to be. So apparently Bert has talked to you about this, and I'd rather you do it with a seat.
But Marty, you have to be committed to doing this if you're on board with that.
I'll commit him.
Okay.
Well, once I know, I know. Once I know how, I don't know how.
What?
It's
Sounds
not
good.
that hard.
It's easy.
Piece of cake.
Okay, we'll get it.
Are you guys on video? Are you guys doing video Zoom?
Yep.
Yeah.
Man,
Yes. Yes.
Oh, but I only get to call in.
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, that's no fun.
Yeah,
one of the
you
reasons for
guess
that-
all you don't get the privilege of being seen. You only get the privilege of calling in. Hey, by the way,
We have to do that so that we can meet the public. That's fine.
Christina, we're not much
Yeah.
to look at anyway.
No.
I thought we did a Board of Supervisors one where everyone was videoed. Am I not remembering that right?
I have a picture. I have a picture, but that's all.
I'm gonna dash off.
Look us in the eye.
John knows what to do. I leave it in
All right.
John's and Bert's
Yep.
hands.
I'm
Okay,
gonna
so
dash off. My-
was that a 5-0 vote to adjourn?
Yes,
Yep.
5.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Have a good night, everybody.